to reappreciate the player that Chris Bosh really is. You learn to really appreciate the coach that Spoelstra is. You learn to really appreciate the player that Dwayne Wade is. I think that these guys right now are doing things that maybe people thought that they weren't capable of anymore.
Looking in the West, Sacramento off to a quick start. How long do you see this lasting? Do you think that they're not going to be let's get that out of the way. I'm not predicting them to be a contender. I'm sure nobody is, but playoff team, do you think that's realistic? And who do you think is more realistic of a playoff team, them or the Pelicans?
The Pelicans. I think there's a slot that's up for grabs with Oklahoma City. Right now, they're 1-5. You have Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook in games until mid-December. I think that the Western Conference is too tough for teams to beat 10 and more games under 500. So I think that we're going to see one of those teams just slide into the 7th or 8th spot. Don't be surprised if Phoenix is the team also.
Yeah, somebody was saying how if doing the breakdown for the Thunder, and say Durant and Westbrook are missing for 20 games, and they go 8-12 or something like that, that's you still, and even if they get 40 more wins in the 60 games left, that's 48 wins, and that's not enough to make it into the playoffs. What do you think the odds are that they do make the playoffs?
My two best friends, slim to none, without Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant playing before mid-December. If these guys were to come back early December, then I could see them putting together a good win streak, to kind of make up for the lost field. But besides that, slim to none.
And is there another team that made the playoffs from last year in the West? A lot of people were saying, oh, Houston's going to take a step back. But obviously they've played well still early. But do you see another team dropping out of that playoff picture from the West other than Oklahoma City?
No.
Oh.
The only other team that's not in the playoffs right now, although it's early, is the San Antonio Spurs. But you can't expect those guys to stay on the outside looking in.
Prediction: how many 50-win teams do we get in the Western Conference this year? Because I think it's possible we could get at least 9.
50 wins?
Yeah.
I think that's going forward. I think the NBA is the most talented, at least in the Western Conference, that it's ever been. You have a legitimate 10 to 11 teams that could literally make the playoffs. You have 10 to 11 teams that are going to be fighting for that 8th seed. This is the most talented Western Conference in recent memory. So I think 50 is going to be the new standard. I think 1 through 6. I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 through 6 with over 50 wins.
Do you think that, the whole thing with the West is, there's probably 6 teams that you could argue could win the NBA Finals. In the East, there's probably 2, but there's probably, after those top 2, there's like 6 pretty solid teams in the East, which it's been a while since there's been 6 solid teams in the East. In the West, you got, 10, 11 total really solid teams. Do you think that the NBA is just that talented right now, or do you think that the bottom teams are just that bad?
I think the NBA is just that talented right now. With the exception of Philadelphia, and unfortunately the injury to Paul George in the East, I think the East even is just that talented right now.
Yeah, it's tough for me to read because, if you listen to the old timers, they're going to say, "Oh, the talent's too spread out," but it doesn't feel that way in my opinion. It feels like, the talent's probably just right to make all these teams pretty good, and I don't think any of these teams are going to be all-time great teams. There's no all-time great team out there, and there probably hasn't been for 10 or 15 years. But just looking at it's really good to have, small markets mixed in with the big markets being good right now. And I mean, you look at New York, Boston, and LA, those 3 teams are all pretty down right now. And the NBA, is just as watchable, if not more watchable, when they're good.
I agree. I think a lot of it has to do with the new CBA and guys just trying to figure out teams that didn't have the draft picks going into the CBA were the big market teams that you just mentioned. It was the Lakers, it was the Knicks, and it was the Celtics, teams that gave away those draft picks in order to build a championship roster. Going forward, I think that all those teams, no team could afford to really build picks because they're just as valuable as money at this point. So I think that going forward, we will see an adjustment from those teams.
Lakers-wise, how many years until this team is back in the playoffs?
I will go on record and say I think the worst is over after the season. There's no way to strike out this summer.
Okay.
There's no way. You have to remember, the Lakers have a vision. They're not just putting together a team of a puzzle. They're not going to spend their cap space on puzzle. Before this past summer, this is the first time that team had legitimate cap space since Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal were put on the same team 19 years ago. So they have a vision, and they're going to stick to it. They have a clear vision, and it's not to put together a team like the Denver Nuggets where you have a collective talent. They're looking for the next star after Kobe Bryant. And unfortunately, it wasn't going to be Carmelo, and it wasn't going to be LeBron. But going forward, what's the cap space? Who wouldn't want to play in Los Angeles? Guys that go into the market, to the open market with an open mind. Not guys who, no disrespect to them, but not guys who say, okay, I'm either going to stay here or go there. No other options, but I'll do an interview with you out of respect.
Okay. Put on your Boston Celtics hat now, and I'm going to ask you the same question and answer it like a Boston Celtics fan would answer. How long is the Lakers rebuilding process?
That's a good question. Who wouldn't want to play in Los Angeles for the money? The same thing for Boston. Same thing with Boston. If I'm the Celtics GM and I have a lot of cap space, who wouldn't want to play in Boston? This is the only team with more championships than the Lakers. So who wouldn't want to play in Boston? Who wouldn't want to play in Los Angeles? But I think that, okay, Kobe Bryant, you have Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo's been to 2 NBA Finals, splitting. He's won 1, he's lost 1. You have Kobe Bryant, who's been to 7 NBA Finals and won 5. Which guy would you want to play with? Dig a little deeper. Yeah. You have Brad Stevens, who's still a young coach. And Byron Scott, for all the knocks that he do get, he's been into the NBA Finals twice. He is a former Coach of the Year. So obviously he's done something right in the past.
Yeah.
Where would you want to play?
I'd probably... Oh man, LA sounds so nice. If I were asked that question, I'd say LA. I'd love the weather. My joints as an old 24-year-old man, my joints don't match up well with the cold weather in Boston. You have to remember that Lakers fans right now, they're spoiled, so they're starving for success. What's going to be interesting to me is I want to see who's going to be what I call the next Amari Stoudemire. Amari Stoudemire, when he went to New York, he went on the stage and he said, New York is back. Without Amari, you would have no Carmelo in New York right now. I want to see who's going to be the guy that steps up this summer or the summer after and takes the challenge and say the Lakers are back. I want to see who's going to be that guy. I'm glad you brought up that Amari Stoudemire point because it bothers me as a Knicks fan. All these Knicks fans criticizing Amari and being like, oh, he's garbage and all this stuff. Melo would not be in New York right now if it wasn't for Amari. You think Melo would have signed off on a trade to go to New York to play with, garbage?
No. At that point, you have to remember, Amari Stoudemire was a legitimate MVP candidate with the season he was having with Raymond Felton running the show at the point guard. So I think that without Amari Stoudemire, I don't think you have Carmelo Anthony in New York right now. So although it turned out not to be the greatest thing, it still helped them to get Carmelo, who's a star going forward this summer. And the Knicks are another team with cap space this summer. And you have a guy like Carmelo who is going to attract talent, along with Phil Jackson, who players trust is an 11-time champion. But those pieces wouldn't be there if Amari Stoudemire wasn't the first domino to fall in New York.
Exactly. Jory, I appreciate you coming on. Before I let you go, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
At JLaker on Twitter. At Laker Nation on Twitter.
Any upcoming articles we should be looking for?
I'm gonna get to a post game after this game. Hopefully the Lakers win their first game of the season. On your behalf, for your well-being, I hope that they do get that first win of the season. I do want to thank you for coming on. We will be right back here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. You're listening to the Bob Sullivan Show. George?
There's no more tears, no feelings like before. And now my heart is made of stone, and you'll never turn me on into broken-hearted lying on the floor. And now your soul is torn in two. You are lost, you are mad, feeling sad, you crazy boy.